Hey everybody, welcome to JLB Sports TV. I am Justin Block, and today we're going to talk about Andy Carroll. Now, it's been rumored the past week that Brendan Rodgers actually had a one-on-one talk with Andy Carroll, and Andy Carroll was informed that he does not fit in with Rodgers' plans at Liverpool and should be put on loan this year. Nobody's confirmed that Brendan Rodgers actually wants Andy Carroll to leave Liverpool, but there has been a rumor that West Ham was actually about to submit a 25 to 28 million pound bid to buy him, or that they would gladly take him on loan. Now, before I get into why I think he should stay at Liverpool, let's just address a couple things right up front. Number one, it'd be silly for Liverpool to sell Andy Carroll for anything less than 25 million pounds. You bought the player for 35 million pounds. Now, a 10 million pound loss would be huge, but if somebody's willing to pay 25 million pounds for a player who's realistically probably only worth 10 million pounds on the open market, you take that in a chance. And number two, it'd be silly to loan out a player that expensive. You paid all this money for him, he's on a high contract, being paid lots of wages a week. Why not just keep him and see how he does in the team? He's certainly not hurting anybody by being in the team, and he can only help himself by furthering his future at Liverpool FC by playing for Liverpool FC. Now, I just want to check what I'm going to call Andy Carroll's vitals, or a couple of his stats. Now, the only stats I could find available online were Andy Carroll's time at Liverpool through December 2011, but let's just take these for what we have, because I can't really say either way that he would get better or worse with these stats throughout the other half of the season, but I wouldn't say he got exactly worse afterwards. Now, if you look here, his pass accuracy, chances created, and shot accuracy are about the same with Liverpool as they were when he had his breakout campaign with Newcastle a couple seasons ago. Not only that, but some of his dueling statistics, which are really big for Andy Carroll because he does like to play up front as a lone number 9, and it's very important for him to be able to win tackles, win duels, and just play the ball up to him. If you look here, his ground duel winning percentage and his aerial duel winning percentages are about the same as they were at Newcastle. So clearly, this is basically the same kind of player that Liverpool bought from Newcastle. The only difference is his chance conversions has been very, very poor. While his conversion rate at Newcastle was 35%, at Liverpool, it's a mere 20%. And we can really attest that to Liverpool across the board this season, or this past season, not converting any chances. Andy Carroll wasn't the only one that was missing chances left and right. In fact, Luis Suarez's chance conversion rate was almost as bad as Andy Carroll's. And Liverpool as a whole, I believe, were in the bottom 5 of chance conversions this past season compared to other EPL clubs. So in terms of the chance conversion rate, I'm willing to forgive that because it was the effect of Liverpool missing chances left and right as a team and not just on Andy Carroll. We all know how many, God knows how many chances Andy Carroll had off the post this season. I believe this season he will be more lucky, and we will see that chance conversion rate sort of upgrade to the norm. We talk about in statistics, about in sports, how players usually regress to the norm. I think Andy Carroll will sort of ascend to the norm this year. But Brendan Rodgers is the new manager at Liverpool. Kenny Dalglish is out, and Andy Carroll will be playing in a completely different kind of team this year. So to figure out how Andy Carroll would work in with Brendan Rodgers' side, we can compare his stats to some of Brendan Rodgers' players at Swansea City's last season's stats. Now, if you compare Andy Carroll to a player like Danny Graham, who played as a striker under Brendan Rodgers last year, we have some interesting numbers. Andy Carroll actually played more passes per minute than Danny Graham, at a 0.35 passes per minute, compared to Danny Graham, he played 0.21 passes per minute. But Andy Carroll was much less accurate than Danny Graham. Andy Carroll's passing last year was 64% overall, while Danny Graham's was 77% overall. But if you look at the chances created per minute, Andy Carroll created more chances per minute than any single player on Swansea City last season. If we dig deeper into these stats, I think they're a little bit skewed. Danny Graham, of course, playing under the passing system, was actually he was probably asked to be more accurate with the ball. He probably had better channels to pass the ball on because he was a product of Brendan Rodgers' system at Swansea. And of course, he created less chances per minute than Andy Carroll because at Swansea City, the motto was quality over quantity. Andy Carroll created more chances, but they were converted less. Danny Graham and all of Swansea, they created less chances, but their conversion rate was higher because they were higher quality. So in short, Andy Carroll played under Kenny Dalglish's philosophy and was a product of that, and Danny Graham and the rest of Swansea played under Brendan Rodgers' philosophy, and their statistics were the result of that. So this doesn't prove that he really can play with Brendan Rodgers, but it doesn't prove that he can't play with Brendan Rodgers. I believe that Andy Carroll could play up to Brendan Rodgers' standards and up to Brendan Rodgers' passing. Brendan Rodgers has a history of sort of making players into his mold, and I think that if Andy Carroll is asked to do the things under Brendan Rodgers' system, there's no reason to think that he can't do it. For one, I just want to see Andy Carroll go out in a string of games under Brendan Rodgers until we really give him a definitive stamp of whether he fits into Brendan Rodgers' passing system or mode or philosophy at Liverpool. I think it's really just premature to stamp him as a player who isn't going to be able to thrive in Brendan Rodgers' system just because he's a big man and just because he's not the best technically sound striker with the ball at his feet. It's also important to remember that Andy Carroll was only 23 years old. Our old sporting director, Damian Camoli, actually said that strikers, especially like Andy Carroll, true number 9s, don't really peak until their age 27 season. So if you want to play it like that, Andy Carroll still has around 2 to 4 more years until he reaches his peak. I think it'd be ridiculous for Liverpool to even entertain the idea of allowing Andy Carroll to leave this summer. Because number one, he's still very young. Number two, we don't exactly know how he will fit under Brendan Rodgers' system until we see him play under Brendan Rodgers' system. And number three, he's too expensive to let leave. You cannot let him leave for chump change. It's too early on. He only signed a year and a half ago. Give him more time. So that's all for today with JLB Sports TV. I'm Justin Block. I do not want Andy Carroll to leave Liverpool, and you should not want him to leave either. Also, before we go, I want to give a quick shout out to the Facebook page, Liverpool FC members, Liverpool FC, one word, the members. Check them out. I just found it a couple days ago. It's a great page if you want to talk Liverpool and get news on Liverpool. Be sure to like them on Facebook. They have over 1,300 likes, and they're a very fast-growing page. Also, while I'm at it, might as well promote the JLB Sports TV Facebook page. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/JLB Sports TV. Check out the new JLB Sports TV site, jlbsports.tv. Also be sure to follow the new JLB Sports TV, the official JLB Sports TV Twitter account, at JLB Sports TV 49, as well as my own personal account, at JBlock49. Thanks for keeping up with us, guys.